Welcome back to the Epic Exchanges podcast. As you know, since I've relaunched in September, once a month, I am featuring a children's book author and their book because it's just one of the ways that we can find to share our stories to make a difference for other people. And this month, I am super excited to welcome Shari Lillico, who is someone I just recently connected with. I have not even read her book yet, so we're all in for a treat. Shari, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Kelly. Thanks for having me. I am, I would say, an author, a speaker, and an intuitive healer, and a mom. So my kids are grown up, but I have gone through the stages of motherhood. And, you know, through it, we learn so many things. We give up so many things. And, I'm hoping that my messages with the book and with my other stuff that I do, it's, be you. We're all unique. We're all loved. We're all worthy. And let's just do life the best we can.
I think that there's nobody who can't have enough reminders about be you, we're all worthy, because we're hard on ourselves. And
Yes, we are.
I just believe it's a constant struggle to
Yes.
remember our own worth. So I'm excited. I'm just going to let you dive in and start telling us Fred's story.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so my book is called Fred Does It His Way. And I don't know if you can see it. I can't see what you're seeing. So we're just going to go like this. So in a faraway land, there lived a group of magical dragons. All day long, the dragons happily played together in the sun. All except one little dragon named Fred. Fred was not like the other dragons. He could not fly, breathe smoke, or become invisible. In fact, he had no magical gifts at all. One day, as Fred was walking around the valley, he heard his friend Anita call down to him, "Come play with us." Fred looked up to see Anita zipping through the air. He wanted to play shoot the hoops, but he was never given the ball. Disappointed, he walked on. "Hey, Fred, do you want to play hide and seek?" a voice called from across the yard. Fred looked around, but no one was in sight. "No thanks, George," he called to his invisible friend. The only thing that happened when he played hide and seek was that he got tagged out first. Head hung low, Fred kept walking. He had tried most of the games before, but they were no fun for him. He just wasn't good at any of them. Suddenly, Fred heard a loud cheer. Looking up, he saw he reached the racetrack. Feeling like he had nothing better to do, he decided to sit and watch. As he watched, a tiny spark of excitement started to bubble up inside him. Something about the races felt right, and Fred began to wonder if he could do it too. Fred stood up and took a step toward the starting line, then stopped. "No, they'll just laugh at me," Fred thought to himself. Feeling very discouraged, Fred left the racetrack. All night he tossed and turned and thought about racing. He imagined the feel of the wind rushing past him and the feeling of his claws tapping the track's hard ground. When the sun rose the next morning, Fred went back to the track. All day he watched, trying to find the courage to join the other runners. But once again, fear stopped him. "What are you doing?" his friend Sasha asked with concern, coming to sit beside him. Embarrassed to tell her he really wanted to try racing, Fred let out a huge sigh and replied, "Just watching." As the sun set, Fred decided he couldn't wait any longer. He had to try. Sasha gave a hoot of encouragement as he nervously walked to the starting line. "On your mark, get set, go!" Fred ran as fast as he could all the way to the finish line. When he stopped, he cautiously looked around. He'd come in last. But Fred realized it didn't matter. He loved running, and he now had a dream. One day, he would win a race. And so, day after day, Fred raced, and race after race, Fred came in last. Fred didn't care the other dragons thought he was silly to keep trying. He knew what he wanted, and he was determined to do it. But winning takes practice, so when Fred wasn't racing, he was running everywhere. "There he goes again," scoffed Alina to George. "Why doesn't he just give up?" But Fred didn't want to give up. He wanted to run. On the morning of the next big race, Fred took his place on the starting line. "I can do this. I am fast," Fred told himself. With a swoosh and a roar, flames shot into the air. The dragons were off. Fred kept his eyes ahead of him, focusing on the finish line. "I am fast. I can do this. I am fast. I can do this," Fred repeated. Then pop! Fred was gone. Poof! Fred looked around in confusion. Then he realized he had run with so much determination and focus that he teleported to the finish line. Suddenly, Fred heard the gasps, the hollering, the flapping of wings, and the pounding of feet in the crowd. They were cheering him on. With a shake of his head, he took 2 quick, wobbly steps across the finish line and won. Fred could hardly believe it. His dream had come true. He had found what he loved and discovered his magical gift. And even better, he had done it his way.
I love that story. Thank you.
You're
I-
welcome.
Just so the audience knows, this is the first time I've heard it as well. So that was fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. So a few questions.
Uh-huh.
How did you decide to write this story?
Well, I didn't actually decide to write it. that actually sounds, I know that sounds funny, but I was really into my self-development journey. I was making, doing all the things that I needed to do to try and, I was into the spiritual, I was into the metaphysical and everything else. But anyway, one night I woke up in the middle of the night with this story in my head in its entirety. It was just there. And usually It still is at this point. If I don't get up and I don't write something in the middle of the night, if I don't write it down, it's gone in the next morning. Well, I didn't write it down. I fully expected it to be gone, but that story stayed. And it stayed and it stayed days. It was weeks. I'm sure it was weeks. And this story would not leave me. So I finally wrote it down. And that's how, and like I said, it just came to me in the middle of the night, didn't know anything about it. But when I finally wrote it, I wasn't ready to do anything else yet with it. I put it into a file folder and it went up onto the shelf because I had work to do on myself because I still had nobody would be interested in it. Nobody would want to read my story. What makes me think that I could write a story I'm not good at, and I had all these lovely beliefs running through my head. And so it just sat there.
Hello, imposter syndrome, right?
Yep. Yep,
So
exactly.
I noticed that you got a little bit emotional there at the end. Does the story in some way reflect some of your journey?
It does actually. And I didn't even figure that out on my own. I was actually working with a coach. And it was during the time that Fred was getting illustrated, actually. And we were talking about the book. And she's like, this sounds like you and your journey. And I'm like, I had to stop. Just stopped me with that. And I went, holy man, that it is, you know, because as a kid, I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't, really push myself to be me. And that went all the way into teenagers, into adult life, being a people pleaser and all that kind of stuff until I finally had to start breaking out and start on the self-discovery journey and figure out who I was and what I wanted. But
Right.
yeah.
So what does it mean to you for Shari to do it her way?
Um, to just do, like I said, do it your way. I love the spiritual. I love the metaphysical. Um, I still am, and I will admit it, I am still working on being me. Getting onto podcasts is helping me to get it out there to instead of hiding in my house, doing my things in my house. But it's to be you. Don't like I said, I have dragons all over. I've got one sitting up here on my and I've got stuffed dragons all over. And if somebody doesn't like who I am, then they don't have to be around me, kind of deal, right? And
Yeah.
most times it's not, I don't usually get that, right? It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So why this format? Why a children's book? I mean, aside from the fact that it came to you in your sleep as just and it stayed with you, what is
Yeah,
it about a children's book format that you found appealing?
I loved reading to my kids. I absolutely loved it. I read, they got a book every night. They got books through the day. They got right. And I was always on the search for children's books that, I thought they would enjoy, but also ones that would help them through lessons. So, um, a children's book, and then of course, well, a children's book is close to my heart because I love them so much. But then also, if we can actually start getting our kids to start being themselves at a younger age instead of waiting until they're all grown up, then I think my personal opinion, I think the world would be a better place because, they would be accepted for who they are. They would be accepting other people the way they are, the kindness, the everything would just be.
Yeah, I agree. So with that in mind, what would you hope that people, children and adults, take away from Fred's story?
To be your best self and encourage your children or the children in your life to be theirs, right? Because if, like I said, if everybody could accept each other the way they are with kindness and love and all that kind of stuff, then the world would be a better place. So be you. It does, you're unique. You don't have to be like everybody else. Everybody has their own skills and talents. And, yes, fear is there, but you can overcome it.
Right. Well, thank you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
Um, I don't really know what else I would say. I mean, they can go and find my book on Amazon
Yes.
if they would like.
Yeah, so that's my next question is how can people find you? How can they find your book? Where can they find you if they want to connect with you and know more, work with you? How
Work with me.
how could they work with you?
Okay, so my books, I have two. One's a compilation book, so for adult, and my children's book, they are both on Amazon. And also they could find it through my website at sharilillico.com. If they wanted to work with me or, do a school reading or something like that, if they were interested in doing that for Fred, or adults wanting to work with me to help them become themselves and go after their dreams, they can find more information on that also on my website.
Great. Well, we will be sure to have the links for people to connect with you in our show notes, and we'll be posting them on our social media throughout this week after making this go live. So people
Nice.
can connect with you, find more information there. We'll make it easy.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing Fred with us. I am excited to get the book myself. And just so the audience knows, I'm planning a little holiday giveaway with all the children's books that we'll be featuring from September to December. So make sure that you follow us to find out all the information when goes live. So working on that right now.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. That's very
I too, even though I haven't had children, I have a love for children's books and always have. And so I just think they're a great thing to have around, especially the ones that kind of teach us something in a fun and easy way.
awesome.
Thank you, Shari. Thank you for being here and sharing, as I said, sharing Fred with us.
And thank you so very much, Kelly, for having me. I really enjoyed it.